Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, hello friends and welcome to another rec video. And today, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be doing something a little more unconventional. But if you've been to my weekly wrap-ups, basically since December, you'll know that this isn't really out of the ordinary. I've been reading a lot of this, but I wanted to make this all concentrated in one video. Also kind of answer some questions, do a bit of a recap on like what fan fiction is, because I haven't talked about it specifically in like a dedicated video in a while. I've just been slipping them in as I've been reading them, which again, I've been reading a lot lately, specifically Shane and Ilya fan fiction, which is what this video will be concentrated on because that's all that I've been reading. But I've been wanting to do a video that is dedicated to it. And yeah, I'm very excited about it. And I couldn't decide what else I wanted to put out. And this is really what I was the most excited to make. And because, as usual, I say this in the winter and early spring, YouTube's doing whatever the hell it wants with promoting our videos anyway. Why not make a video about the topic that I want to anyway? And particularly on my Instagram, my posts about Hollanov fanfiction have literally taken over my, that's not all I've been posting on Instagram. I'm still doing my reviews and everything, but anytime I post anything Heated Rivalry, I've been doing these quote roundups from the books as well as recaps of the fics I've read. The posts have just went nuts. And because I'm someone who likes to talk more than just make posts about it, it only makes sense that I do a dedicated video to it. So first, let me just go over a few things just to catch everyone up to speed, answer a few questions that I get a lot when I do these posts. And then we'll get into every Hollanov fic that I've read since watching and reading Heated Rivalry and The Long Game. And that is currently 26 fics that I've finished. And then I'll discuss a couple that I have bookmarked. I'm actually going to share a few that I have bookmarked because I personally don't read the ones that aren't finished. That's always going to be a discourse. People, and particularly, I will talk about it. There is a fic that is being written right now that everyone is voracious over it. They're obsessed with it. And in every single post I do, they're like, read this, read this, read this. And I'm like, I will read it when it's done. Okay, I'll read it when it's done. And no one's going to make me. No one's going to make me. Okay, you're not going to make me because there are hundreds and thousands of fics that are finished already. So why would I make myself read one that's unfinished and have to wait for it if it's not? Okay? There's enough other people encouraging the fic author to keep writing it that I don't need to do it. Okay? That's just how I feel about it. My own author, who I work for, who does serialized releases of one of her books, I don't read it until she's done with it. And she knows that, okay? So if a woman who pays me doesn't get me to read her stuff before it's done, no one's going to get me to read fic. Ow, I just stabbed myself with my fingernail. So anywho, couple things about this fanfic. So I have been 100% reading these ones off of AO3. The term AO3 stands for An Archive of Our Own. That is the main fan fiction site that I use. I don't know if there are Hollanov fics on other sites. I assume there's probably some somewhere. An Archive of Our Own is a free site, as all fan fiction should remain free for people to get a hold of. Wow, I really stabbed myself. Look at the red mark there. Jeez. Because fanfic is, not something that should be published, though I know that is a whole other side note. We're not getting into that today. That's not what this one is about. We are not discussing the ethics of it. We are discussing recommendations for it, right? But An Archive of Our Own is amazing, and it's a site that is freely maintained. That means, and something that people new to fan fiction had a rude awakening to in this last week. That means that sometimes the site goes down, and it is down for a long period of time because the people who maintain it, you know, they're a nonprofit basically, and they have to do like fundraisers yearly. You know, you can donate to the cause of it, because when they need to get the server fixed or they need people to patch things, like they pay for that out of, you know, out of pocket for it. So they do fundraisers and you can donate to it. And there was a downage of it and people were literally losing their minds because it was down for like 12 hours. So I highly recommend that people download the fix because you're able to download it in like EPUB, PDF, and a couple other options. You can download it and you can actually send it to your Kindle. Now, I've talked about in detail how to do this in previous fan fiction videos before, and there is actually like a document and a step through of how to do that. But basically how you can set this up is the same way if you've ever sent an ARC to you yourself, or you've ever had an author send you an ARC, or you've ever downloaded something off of BookFunnel and had it sent to you. You can do that the same way. A lot of times that's using, you know, most people have a Kindle or the Kindle app, and so they're going into Amazon and you add your own email into approved senders. And then when you are on AO3, you go into the fic and there'll be an option that says download, and you choose download as an EPUB. And when you download as an EPUB, it will then download it onto your device. And then you can either, sometimes I do this when I'm going to send myself a whole bunch. You can go right into the Amazon send a Kindle thing, and you could send a bunch to your Kindle at once. That's something really fun to do if you ever spend a day sending a whole bunch to yourself. Or if you're just sending one to yourself, you can then go into your email and put in your Kindle email address and then, you know, attach the fic and send it to you. People have asked me before how to do this if you don't use Kindle. And I'm like, well, then you just don't send it to your Kindle, but you can still download it to your device. And if you have an app or something that can read a file reader, like those are really cheap to get. Like before I even knew that, like I did not know you could send a Kindle way back when I started reading. I didn't know you could send these to your Kindle. And I just literally had a free file reader on my phone. And so when you would download it as an EPUB, I had an EPUB reader app on my phone, and I was then reading them on my phone. But the reason why I like to do that is because if AO3 ever goes down, or if a fic author decides to delete their work or something, because they do that, aka that is something that happened with a lot of Harry Potter fics that ended up getting tradpubbed. They may delete their fic so that they can rework it. And if they delete it off of AO3, then you can't access it anymore if you didn't download it. But if you had downloaded it to your device, whatever version of it you downloaded when you downloaded it, you'll have it for yourself, right? So that's why I download them. As soon as I find them and they're completed, I download them. And that has saved me many a times. And I've had many of people who have asked for, I'm not going to list them because I'm not sending them to people anymore because they are on older devices. But there was a time when certain fics that got tradpubbed and shall remain nameless, I had them saved on older devices, and I was able to send them to my friends when they could no longer get them off of AO3 or older things. Because yeah, if you've downloaded them, you have them. So anyway, that's a little bit about, you'll be able to see in the description of this video, I'm going to have a link to every fic that I'm talking about, and it's going to take you right to the page for this fic, and it'll be the front page of it, and you'll see all the little buttons that are the option for like the page index, if you want to bookmark the fic, if you want to download it, and that's where you'll be able to do that. A couple of other things just to keep in mind. Some fics will require you to have an account on AO3 to read them because they'll be locked due to content. This could be because it's considered an explicit fic, which a lot of these are labeled explicit, but they're not a locked fic. I still don't fully understand why they're locked. I think that is a decision based on the author. I myself have never posted. Maybe one of you in the comments fully knows this. I've just never investigated it. I got an account on AO3 very early on because one of my friends had the ability to invite people. And so I didn't have to wait a really long time to get one. Because you're able to view most fics just as a public person on there. You know, it's totally fine. You'll be able to do it without having an account, and you'll be able to download without having an account. But for some fics, you will have to have an account to get into them. They'll have a little lock on them. And so you will need to request an account and a username, and you have to be approved for it. And so you will want to do that if you end up liking fics and enjoying the journey of spiraling down into this. You'll want to get an account, just because then also you can save bookmarks. You can be tracking fics. We're going to get into that too when I talk about a couple of the ones that I'm bookmarked now. I didn't used to bookmark stuff, and now I do, and I'm really glad that I do. And I leave myself little notes about how quickly the authors update, if they're ones I'm going to keep following and stuff like that. So yeah, I just suggest getting an account if you end up enjoying it. Then you can also like subscribe to kind of some of the authors, and you can get emails when they update the fic if you do choose to read ones that they're still writing, you know, because some people, they will like the thrill of each new chapter being dropped. Not everyone is like me. That is the whole thing with, again, specifically this one fic that's being written. People love when a new chapter drops, they all read it, and then they talk about it like it's a new episode dropping or something like that. And I'm not judging them. I'm just really tired of being hounded about it. Like, that's how I always feel about stuff like that, is when someone finds one that they like, they just hound everyone about getting to it. And I'm like, guys, once it's done, I will literally read it within 12 hours and I'll be all caught up to you. It's okay. To me, like, I get that, because like I understood the experience of like when Heated Rivalry was coming out in each new episode. But with reading, specifically that fic, which is basically an erotic 50 Shades of Grey type fic, like I don't need to be collectively reading it with you guys and discussing it. Like, it's not the same. So anywho, let me see if there's anything else I want to touch on. I think those are the main things. Like, get comfortable with AO3, request an account if you think you'll want to read more of these, learn how to download and send to your Kindle, and then, oh yes, just a couple more of the etiquette things. So this is something that I had to go through kind of a learning curve with myself, because I just didn't understand, as being someone who, you know, tracks all of my reading. I rate all of my reading. This was something that I just didn't understand in the beginning. So because fan fictions, A, are not trad pubbed, B, are being written by people who are, for the most part, choosing to stay anonymous, they may ask for people's advice and feedback on their fics. Like, you are able to comment on it as you read it, though if you are downloading it to your device, you're probably not doing that. It is good etiquette for some, if you do end up reading a fic that is being written as you read it, to give kudos and likes to the fic as you're reading it, you know, the way you would with a YouTube video or with a, you know, with Instagram posts, to support the person who's writing it, you know. Or if you read it and you really love it and you read it on your device, go back into AO3 when you're done and go comment on the fic or like it, you know, because it is, you know, kind of like someone's blog, someone's story who's writing it. And just because they can't make money off of it, you know, again, it's the same way with like an Instagram. Like, just because someone's not making money off of it doesn't mean they don't deserve the support for having written you a story you really love. So that is important. However, we shouldn't put these fics on Goodreads or rate them the same way we rate other things. Again, this was something that it took me myself a long time to learn. And in the very beginning of things, I did rate my fan fictions. I just rated them with everything else. And I think part of the reason was that I just was loving them so much, and they were all rated so highly that it wasn't a big deal to me, because I was like, these are all so great, right? Like, I had some that I considered 6 stars and they were like my favorites. And it wasn't until later on that I, in all honesty, when I started to read some ones that I didn't like, But then I had to deal with, I'm like, well, but why am I holding these to kind of the same standard? Like, this person is really playing and telling me a fun story. I don't need to be holding it up to the same account. And if I do read one that I feel like it's just as good as some of the other masterpieces I've read, well, then that's almost like it's a bonus, but it's not ever expected. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's just an etiquette thing. You know, they give us these stories for free, and if we like it, we should tell them. But if we don't like it, we don't need to bitch about it, right? Like, that's kind of like the trade-off, as it were. And so it's really bad form to be putting out like, oh, I gave this 3 stars, or to put it on Goodreads. It's also not great to put it on Goodreads because, again, technically we shouldn't be rating these like they're books. We shouldn't be listing them as a published work on Goodreads. And even though you may find some on there that other people have added, like librarians will have added them on there, a Goodreads librarian or people do that, that doesn't mean that you should just because you've seen them there. And one of the things I did do for a little while, because I wanted to track what I was reading on Goodreads, particularly when I was a bit more like, oh, I want to hit my reading goals. There are some people who've created like blank Goodreads things like that just say fan fiction of 300-page length. And it'll say fanfic by anonymous that you can use to track your reading as like just a blank book, but yet to show that you finished, because I still count fanfics as finished books, right? I still count them as a finished work to me, because if I read a fanfic that's 600 pages, or even if I read one that's 100 pages, like, I still read that and it was a story that entertained me, and I'm still recommending it to you. So like, it counts as a story, but I'm not trying to rate it and review it and critique it in that way. So don't rate them or put them on Goodreads like that. And that's why, you know, you'll see if you do check out my Instagram, I didn't rate the fics, and I'm not going to rate them today when I talk about them either. I'm just going to tell you ones that I highly recommend and ones that I'm like, this was okay, or you'll like this one if you like this, you know, because that's kind of what fan fiction's about anyway. Like, there's going to be something for everyone, and everyone might like something different. And oftentimes I'm picking up a fic because of a certain tag, and it could be a tag that someone else is not going to want. So anyway, I think those are kind of the main things to mention. Of course, feel free to ask questions. I know a lot of my viewers who absolutely have been reading fan fiction since way back when, like since there was like forums for it way back when, because we've talked about it before when I went through my first like fan fiction phase. And yes, I've even done fan fiction readathons before. And that's another question I might as well answer now. I've had people ask if I was going to do another fan fiction readathon, because I've done, I think, 3 of those. And I don't foresee myself doing another one. I have loved doing them, but the climate around it has just gotten so complicated with the complex feelings about, you know, in general, about like the Harry Potter universe and world. That's just gotten so sticky, and especially with how many fics had been pulled and then published as real, and you know, with just, and then some fics that had been, one fic that had been pulled and then published and now is supposed to be, was an option to be a film still. Like, things have just gotten so sticky with it, and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to worry about someone taking it the wrong way or being angry that I've done it. And I just want to keep fan fiction as something I really, really love. So I obviously have repicked up a love of it. I mean, I never lost my love of it. I really tried to keep reading a couple every year. And I know in 2025, my goal was to read at least one every month, and I did not. I think I only read like 10 the whole year. But then after The Long Game, which now let's get into these, but after I read The Long Game, I just wanted more of Shane Ilya. I wanted more. And I saw some people starting to share the fanfics, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I dived in. So with that being said, after a 20-minute intro, you guys know I love to do it. Let us get into all of the Hollanov fics I've read since completing The Long Game. Okay, so the way that this kind of went for me is really kind of like I said, it was a journey into this, where at first finishing up, I have my little thing in front of me too. I began these very soon after finishing the long game. Like I've shared, multiple times since December of last year, how when I started watching the show, I needed to know what was going to happen next for these characters. And so after episode 2, I jumped right into finishing Heated Rivalry and then jumped into the long game. And then looking back at my, because I have both of my journals here to look at, the order in which I read these fics. Pretty much immediately after finishing the long game, I was like, I need more of them right away. And so the place that I started with my fanfics was starting with ones that were post-long game fics. Starting with fics that had Ilya and Shane both playing for the Centaurs or Ottawa, whichever it's going to be. I think they're going to have to change the name of that team is what Jacob has maybe hinted at. But that is what I was looking for. And so the very first fic that I read was one called The Hickey by DNTAT. And this fic author actually has an Instagram too. And so they actually found the posts that I did where I shared about them. And I do know with this fanfic, this one I believe is a locked fic. So I think you will need the link directly to get to it, because when I posted about it, I immediately had a bunch of people being like, I can't find it. I can't find it. And so I had to share the link there. So if you want that one, you'll have to go to it. But very simply, this one says, and I'll read kind of the blurb for each of these. This one says, 3 times Ilya can't resist marking what's his, and 1 time Shane decides to return the favor. Or Shane and Ilya's first season together on the Centaurs, including teasing teammates, introspection, therapy, personal growth, and lots of sex, and an attempt to bring home the Stanley Cup. So this one was done for a prompt, because that can happen sometimes with fanfics. They can do fun little things like that. And it was a prompt of Shane getting teased about hickeys that Ilya leaves on him. So that's why this was called The Hickey. And this one was really short. It was only like 50 pages. And it was just kind of like scratching the itch of these two in the Centaur locker room, and when Shane would change his clothes, they would find hickeys all over him, and it was really cute. So there is that one. Then after that, I read one that was very much along the same lines, and it was called Hands to Myself. This one was also about the same length. This one is by Unearthed Love, called, Hands to Myself. And this one is, Shane is still adjusting to being out. He's trying, he really is, but he's still very protective of what they have. And so it says, Shane deserves to feel confident and good about being an out and proud gay man. And he's married to a 10. So here's Shane working through varying levels of embarrassment before trying to not give a fuck about how much he loves Ilya. And it said, the title is, of course, from Hands to Myself by Selena Gomez. So this one is just a one-shot, just one chapter, and it was about 60 pages as well. So just so you know, one shot, that's what it means. It's just one chapter. Like the last one that I said, that one is actually like shorter than this one, but it was split into like 4 chapters or whatever. So those were the first 2 that I read. And again, they were just really quick. So then something you will learn about me here is that I generally don't really love one-shots, okay? A lot of people do. They're fine with a quick hitter. And there was a lot of people that were writing a lot of one-shots. But when I go into AO3 and I'm looking for fics, I really like reading the ones where people really have thought them through and there's a lot of meat on the bone. And so at the time when I was doing this, there were not a lot of these. I typed in, I wanted to find the fics that were over 50K, all right? I've since like loosened this up. I tend to try to look for the ones that are above like 30K, because 30K can be about like 120 pages, which I'm, that can be a decent novella length. But I had put in, I wanted to see some that were over 50K. I wanted to see who had really thought about some. And so that led me to Visions of the Future, which I actually saw recommended by Mel, who, you know, if you have ever watched any of my fanfic videos, Mel is someone that I always go to for recs. And of course, Mel was on top of fanfic recs. I got a few from her. But this was one that I saw her do a bind up of this, and I had to go look it up. And this one had, so this one was Visions of the Future, and this one was quite a bit longer. This was 67,000 words. And this one here is, hold on, let me find the, okay, this one doesn't have a blurb, but this one is a continuation of Shane and Ilya's story Past the Long Game. And it starts with Canada facing Russia in the 2026 Olympics, which was kind of a fun thing because the person started writing this. I love this. The person started writing this in October of 2025, which is amazing. I love when stuff like that happens. So this one was written before the show came out. So this one was based off of like The Long Game, the book stuff. So none of the show stuff yet, which I just love that. I mean, I love when it's both. Like there are some we'll get to that it's very clear the characters are based off of Hudson and Connor. Like I'm just telling you, like there are definitely some that are based off of Hudson and Connor. This one was based off of Shane and Ilya, like alone. But this one, started in Milan in February 2026, which was cool. And, you know, it had, this goes through, this has them being 35. They've been together for quite a few years, and it has them playing in the tournament in hockey and everything. So then this one follows them through their lives with, Shane eventually, hold on, let me skip ahead here a little bit. With Ilya eventually wanting to retire and become like the stay-at-home dad, and they get a surrogate. And Shane stays playing, but then eventually Shane becomes like a coach, and Ilya is the stay-at-home dad for their kids. And it was just really beautiful story. And it goes through about like the next, honestly, like I think this one goes through the next like really closely kind of goes through the next like 10 years, but then it also jumps further ahead. And there is a follow-up one about this, which I haven't read. But it is, it jumps all the way to 2045. So 20 years later, and it's about the Hollanovs' kids and stuff. And I didn't want to go that far. Also because there was the possibility, I'm just putting it out there. There was the possibility of, like stuff happening to Ilya in the future, and then like that through the kids' eyes. And I have no interest in doing that. Like, I don't want to see the next generation dealing with their parents going through stuff and the parents being the couple that I want. Some people will want to see that. Cool for them. Great on them. I didn't want to see that. I was good with seeing them get to the point where, they have the kids and they've made their decisions about their future life and everything. That was enough for me. So it was still very beautiful. It got me to cry a couple times, and I thought it was well thought out about how Shane and Ilya would deal with retirement and when each of them would retire and how they would handle their family dynamics and stuff. I thought made a lot of sense in how it went, and I like that. Okay. And then I think I also saw Mel with this one. But I also might have seen this one. I think I maybe saw this one as well when I was looking up fics that were over 50K. And then I also saw Mel share this one possibly. And I loved this one. This one was very long too. This one was 102,000 words. And I think maybe there's one other one longer than this. No, this is currently the longest one I've read. I have some longer ones downloaded, but I haven't read them yet. This is currently the longest one I've read at like over 500 pages, I think. But this one is called Next Chapter by Peace Lilies. And this one is, they've been married for 6 years. And it says, Shane and Ilya are ready to enter the next chapter. So what is happening with them here is Ilya is deciding to retire. And they're thinking about becoming parents. They're trying to decide how they want to do it. If they want to adopt or do a surrogate. And then they find out that Ilya's brother has died. And he actually has a newborn niece. Not the niece that we have like heard about before. Wait. This one is based on the book too, because this one was written in 2024. So this isn't based on the show. This is an older one. But this is like his brother had an affair with like a call girl or something like that. And so it isn't his brother's wife. And that's why the brother's wife doesn't want anything to do with the kid. And so Ilya has to go to Russia and he adopts this child. And so he adopts their niece. And Ilya ends up having to be there for a very long time. And Shane can't go with because he A, has to stay and play hockey, and B, if Shane had went with and been there as his partner, it could have made things more complicated anyway. And so Ilya has to go and spend a lot of money and bribe a lot of people and do a lot of things to get this little girl who they end up, I think, do they name her, what do we end up naming her? I can't remember what we name her. Do we name her Irina? Maybe we don't, but it was a really, really good one at some point. I love them as new parents and just how supportive Shane is of Ilya and just how great that they are together. So I loved this one. This is definitely in my top ones. Highly recommend this one if you're finishing up the long game and wanting one. I think this one, like, because here's the thing, between Visions of the Future and Next Chapter, I like the Next Chapter better. Visions of the Future really kind of leans into a bit of how like Heated Rivalry told the story. And I specifically mean Heated Rivalry, where we were often jumping ahead a year or years at a time. You know, it went from that 2026 Olympics, and by the end of that book, we are like 20 years ahead, you know? And so we do a lot of skipping. Like each chapter, the next chapter, you never knew how far ahead we were going to be. And I just didn't like that. It felt like we were ripping through the years, and it made me very sad, especially when there were possibly hints that Ilya would end up having like memory issues too. And I just don't go to, well, I shouldn't say that I don't go to fan fiction for sadness. That's absolutely not true, as we will get into with some of these. But for that kind of story, if I'm reading the type of story that is there like after the long game HEA, I didn't want to go that far in the future. Whereas Next Chapter, I liked that we were just a few years in the future, and it was literally like their next phase of becoming parents together and stuff like that. So anyway, just my opinion, just how that one went for me. Okay. All right. Next up, there was The Secrets We Kept. And this I read for a very specific reason. And I still don't quite know how I feel about this one. So The Secrets We Kept was the one I read because of an interview that Hudson Williams gave. Also, context, I read this one, I believe, on like January 3rd. So the show was only just over. Okay, these are important context for some of these. I read this one because of the interview where he said, "You want to get fictional me pregnant? Go ahead, knock him up." He said that in an interview. And so there was a bunch of people sharing Omegaverse recs. Now, I'm just not an Omegaverse person, but there was a fic that came about that I decided to give it a try. And I do still have a couple other Omegaverse saved that I think I want to try. But this one it caught my attention for some reason. And so I gave it a go because it's fan fiction and I like to be a little wacky sometimes. But this one definitely tested my resolve for how wacky is too wacky. And yes, this one was called The Secrets We Kept by Larissa Leist. And this is the blurb, or the summary is: Shane Hollander disappears from the NHL at 20 with a career-ending injury. 4 years later, he's the new assistant coach for the Ottawa Centaurs when Ilya Rozanov gets signed with the team. His former rival, his secret hookup, the father of his daughter. Ilya doesn't know Lily exists, and Shane plans to keep it that way. But 3-year-olds don't keep secrets, and neither do their pale eyes. Okay. So, So, this person was also inspired by that interview too, because they started writing this on December 24th of 2025, and it was done by the 1st of January on 2026, and I read it like 3 days later. So this was one that had just been completed. So yeah, this is an MPreg secret pregnancy, and also it was a secret beta. So Shane didn't know that he was like a beta, and that Ilya was an omega. Or no, that Ilya was an alpha and Shane was an omega. That's what I meant to say. And when they had their night in Vegas, where Ilya and him fucked, Shane got pregnant. Didn't know that was possible. But because of how Ilya ended that night, where he pretended that he didn't want to see him again, and Shane thought that this would ruin both of their careers, and instead he would just ruin his career. Shane left hockey, had their baby, never told Ilya that. And so when Shane becomes this coach, and now he's there with Ilya, first off, Ilya doesn't even know Shane has a kid. Then when Ilya finds out Shane has a kid, he thinks that Shane had this kid with a woman. And that Shane was with a woman at the same time he was with him, because in his mind they weren't exclusive, all these things. Anyway, I won't explain the whole thing. The point being, this was a secret pregnancy, and Ilya is very distraught when he finds out. A lot of people have very complex feelings about this one. There is a trigger warning for custody threats and a little bit of domestic violence. I don't know. These were some tags that ended up having to get added in afterwards because people got quite upset with the fic author that they didn't put it in. And I can see that, but also it's pretty much all confined to one scene, and it's the scene when Shane, like, Ilya finds out and he's just so distraught and angry, and people got really, really upset. And I'm like, this is two hockey men who could beat the shit out of each other. Anyway, that doesn't mean domestic violence is okay, but also it's fiction, and also it's fantasy as well, because there's MPreg and it's paranormal and like things and stuff. So anyway, I didn't have that problem because of that. It's just, I don't like secret pregnancy anyway. Plus you add an MPreg, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I tried it. Hudson Williams said, get fictional me pregnant, and I tried it. So I have some other Omegaverse that I want to read, but I don't really love MPreg in Omegaverse. So I don't know, but I tried it, and I'm passing it on to you. If you want to take Hudson's mandate and run with it, The Secrets We Kept might be for you. It was very angsty and delicious in that aspect. Okay. Then, because I was already now completely off the rails with not just following the normal hockey line, I was like, let me go wild. And there was one variation I was really wanting to try, and that was Ilya as Mafia Bratva style. And so I read Mine, All Mine by Peace Lilies, Peace Lilies is who wrote, that one I read previously, Next Chapter, which I really loved. And I saw that they had a Mafia AU. And I was like, hello, sign me up for that right now. And yes, this one involves in it, Shane is actually a teacher who's living a very boring life. He's teaching English in Canada somewhere. And Ilya is a Bratva heir, and he owns a club that Shane and his friends go to one night to go out after work. And they end up dancing together and fall for each other. And Shane doesn't know that Ilya is in the Mafia. And it goes from there. So yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. Although the Mafia stuff was very hidden from the story until really kind of at the end of it. So there is another Mafia one that I have bookmarked currently that I'm really looking forward to getting to that one once it's completed. But yeah, I thought this one was a good first take on that for sure. Okay, then there was That's All It Takes by King's Kindly. And this is currently the only fic that I've read twice so far. Okay, so That's All It Takes came from a little seed that I just love, and I've actually read. There's one I'm reading right now, actually, so I don't have it as a recommendation yet. But in this one, it spins off of the possible plane crash, okay? A lot of people have done stuff with that. I had heard that there was a fic floating around where Ilya does die in the plane crash, and that I was like, no, that sounds awful. Why would you write that? Horrible. No. But then I heard about this one where the plane does crash, but everybody lives. But Shane would find out that the plane crashed and not know if Ilya was okay. So instead of it being a false alarm and Shane finding out that it was a false alarm, he would find out the plane had crashed and not know if Ilya was okay. That is what this one is that the plane does crash, but everyone's okay. And then Ilya, it kind of changed the trajectory of Shane and Ilya, because Shane is like, I can't, continue to have us be a secret because I wouldn't have been told that anything had happened to you. And it just kind of changes their trajectory and everything. Also, they have this, instead of this happening during the long game time, it happens earlier in their relationship. So it also jump starts them sooner than long game time. Okay, then there was Thorns by The Loveliest Crime. This to me is probably the darkest one that I read. And this one actually involves, this one is tough. Okay, so this one involves canon divergence after episode 4. So what if, after episode 4, so this one's one that is based off of the TV show kind of thing. What if after episode 4, when Shane thinks that Ilya goes home with a woman, he doesn't go home with Rose. He tries to hook up with a man. So he uses Grindr, basically Grindr, to hook up with a guy. And that guy ends up drugging him and assaulting him, sexually assaulting him. Shane tries to call Ilya for help, but Ilya ignores it because they've had kind of that little tiff or whatever. And so instead, Shane is able to call Hayden, but then he won't let Hayden take him to the hospital without getting Ilya involved. And so what happens is that now Hayden knows about Ilya now, and the both of them are the only two that know what really happened to Shane. And then this deals with how they deal with that information and how Shane and Ilya move forward after that incident. So again, this one's very dark. This won't be for everyone, but it also has avenging Ilya and Hayden in it and how they make it right for Shane. And I also liked that a lot. I really did. I liked how they go about getting justice for Shane. So that's fan fiction for you. Then, oh yeah, I love these ones as well. So then I actually read kind of a little series here. There was Concussion Protocol and Full Contact, and I'll say those both together. So yeah, these were two that are both around like 50K in length, and they're by CJR2. And Concussion Protocol, the summary goes like this. I'll just read the summary for this one because it actually has a good summary. Some fics have a good summary and some of them just have the tags, and that's all you have to go by. This one says, instead of Shane, it is Ilya who suffers a concussion during the Boston-Montreal game in April of 2017. Dazed and agitated, Ilya briefly starts speaking and responding only in Russian, and the medics can't calm him down. Luckily, Shane started studying Russian after Ilya spoke to him in Russian on the phone from Moscow. For no particular reason. None at all. There's no reason he wanted to learn Russian. Certainly not because he's fallen in love with him. In Montreal, with a lingering concussion symptoms, Ilya is advised not to fly home for a few days, and the hospital won't release him without assurances that he has someone to stay with him until his symptoms improve. Luckily, Shane conveniently has a condo in Montreal no one knows about, and a few days before he has to travel again. But Ilya's symptoms don't resolve after a few days, which is okay. Shane can handle it. He can take care of Ilya, study Russian, lead his team into the playoffs, and keep Ilya's continued presence in Montreal a secret. He can do everything. No problem. He is Shane Hollander after all. So that is part one of this. And I love this one. It's in my top like 3 fics probably. And then part 2 of this one, I will just read it, which if you were interested by that, maybe don't listen to this part because this is a sequel to that, but I want to read the blurb for this one. So just skip to the next one I'm going to talk about if you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to read you the little blurb for this one too. Full Contact. Newly traded to the Ottawa Centaurs, Ilya Rozanov is so close to having everything he never thought he was allowed to want. He can see the man he loves more than 4 times a year. He's surrounded by a team who supports him through his injury, and Shane's parents have unhesitatingly accepted him as part of the family, except his lingering concussion symptoms have kept him sidelined from hockey. His boyfriend is still 2 hours away, their schedules are a disaster, and Shane's team is, well, it's still full of assholes. There must be a way to make it all work. So, that is the second part of it. So, I love it. I loved it. I loved both of those parts. They're probably one I want to reread those ones too. So this is something you'll learn too. We're going to now, I'm still have a lot more to get through in this. I told you I read a lot of these. I love the injury ones. Okay. I really love it. Whether it's Shane or Ilya, I really like the injury ones. I love how protected they are. And I love when the big, strong sports boys are hurt and they take care of each other. Okay, it's my favorite. And I read a lot of those. Okay. Next up, I read Home Ice Advantage, which, this one was cool. Let me read the summary for this one. This is by Tay Writes 11. You're going to Boston. Long after Farah hangs up, the words keep echoing in Shane's head. If he had thought his thoughts had been chaotic this morning, when his biggest problem had been his rival potentially fucking him when he came to Montreal in 2 weeks, that's nothing compared to the code red panic he started to feel the instant he found out he'd been traded to Rosanov's team. Rozanov, who was supposed to be his great career rival. Rozanov, who he'd hooked up with twice now. Rozanov, who had been planning to come to Shane's apartment in Montreal to fuck him next time they saw each other. God, how on earth is Shane going to walk into his locker room in Boston in a few days' time? The impending awkwardness of dealing with Rozanov is almost enough to eclipse the hurt he's trying to ignore. The knowledge that Montreal values him so little that they're willing to dispose of him only 6 months into his rookie season. Almost, but not quite. So, this is Shane gets traded to Boston AU. So, this is basically a divergence in his rookie season. So, if you picked up on that, he has hooked up with Ilya twice. they've still been fooling around, but they haven't like gone all the way yet, as you could say. But I mean, they've hooked up. They're still in the rivalry, like almost hate fucking phase, but they're definitely interested in one another. And now he's getting traded to Boston. Ilya's going to be his captain. They're both still, I think, like 19. And he's getting traded over there, 18, 19 years old. And so, yeah, how's that going to change things? I love that one. And there's actually a sequel in the works for this one, and I'm just dying for it. See, this is why, you guys, I don't start reading them until they're finished, because there's a sequel for this one called Odd Man Rush that I'm waiting on, and this one only has 2 chapters so far, and so I have this one bookmarked, and I'm waiting on it. But I loved Home Ice Advantage. I thought it was a really cool AU. It's a really fun one. Okay, then we have another 1-2 punch here that is a 2-parter one. This is something you can fix and something you can build. Ooh, you guys, this one made me cry a lot. So part 1 of this one is basically a one-shot. Something you can fix is 26,000 words, but it's all like one shot. But you need to read it before you can read something you can build. So this one is basically canon divergence after like episode 5 and or after Shane comes out to Rose. So here is the summary of this. Okay. So maybe if the video had ended there, Shane thought it would be okay. Still incriminating, still a disaster, still embarrassing to have his breakup with this beautiful actress filmed and disseminated on Reddit of all fucking places, but not a nail in the coffin burying him alive. But the video didn't end there. So then it recounts, what if Shane's conversation with Rose was secretly recorded? Months later, after the All-Star game and Ilya's confession in Russian, the video gets leaked online. Shane is outed to the world while Ilya is still in Russia and must now finish the 2016-17 season with the entire world in on his secret. So notes from the author too, just to say this. So I have an endless well of love for the Shane Rose conversation. I think it's so important. I think it's probably objectively one of the best scenes in the show and easily the most important turning point for Shane's character. I love it endlessly, and I love that it isn't a moment of pain in canon, just pure acceptance and understanding. But I was so deeply in the mood to write some angst, and I wanted to write this concept. I really wanted to get this up before episode 6. This was supposed to be 15,000 words, but it ended up being super long. So anyway, that's a note from the writer. So basically it was after episode 5, this fic author got it in their head that what if someone recorded that, which was something that some of us said, that this was literally recorded at like a cheesecake factory. And sure, the mood lighting was there, but there was definitely people walking around, and people would absolutely, like, just think of it that like how many paparazzi photos leaked of like when Connor and Francois were having dinner together, or when just anyone, when anyone from the cast was out like having dinner in places, people could overhear what they would say, right? So imagine these two, one of the biggest hockey stars ever and his movie star girlfriend having dinner at this place and having a conversation like this. Someone recorded it, right? So that's the impetus of this fic. And so this person squeezed out this fic here that is, what if it was recorded? So that's something you can fix, and that gets leaked, and it's awful because this happened before the All-Star game, right? Then there's the All-Star game. Shane and Ilya share their feelings. Things are moving forward with them. They feel good. Then Ilya's father dies. Ilya is in Russia when this leaks. So that is the setup for it. And so on that tape, though, it isn't leaked who Shane likes having fuck him or anything, but it's leaked that he's gay and that he likes being fucked. And now this is out while he is in the playoffs or whatever. So that is that fic. Then there is Something You Can Build, which is a much longer fic. This one is almost 100,000 words. And this is what the summary for this one is. 6 months ago, Shane's intimate conversation and breakup with Rose Landry was recorded and leaked. In those 6 months, his life is completely upended and everything changed for better or worse, except for Ilya. He still has Ilya, and he's beginning to understand that he always will. It's 2018, and Shane Hollander has to figure out his new life in a new city, on a new team, while being out to the world, but not by his own choice. Ilya, along for the ride, also has to learn what it means to be connected to a place, to a person, and to his own inner truth. So this is a sequel to Something You Can Fix, set post-Heated Rivalry, but pre the long game. So, yes, so this one picks up about a week after the last fic, and they're still like at the cottage and everything. So, love this one. And what? Okay. Nope, that's not a sequel. So anyway, really love these ones as well. And I just thought it was a great concept. That's what I love about fanfics, you guys. I love it so much. Okay, next up, another one of my top ones. Oh my gosh. Okay. This one is Down and Out, literally, by Goldfish228. This one is another injury fic, but this one involves Shane being injured. And this one is, they ask Shane to move his fingers to lift his arms, and he does both with no problem. Then the medic takes off Shane's skates, and they ask him to wiggle his toes, and nothing happens. A play on a line from Heated Rivalry following Shane's injury. Oh God, what if I'm not okay? What if I never walk again? A story of loss, growth, and love. So, yes, this is another one that, what if the injury was worse than we thought? And we have Ilya being the rock that he is. There definitely is some trigger warnings for this one, for, you know, paralyzation, paraplegia, and, yeah, like, just the trauma of that. It definitely is there. I cried a lot with this one, and this one is another one that's in my top 5 fics that I've read so far. I truly, truly love this one so much, and this, I think, is another one. Yes, this is another one that the fic author is writing more chapters of this. Hold on. Yes, this one there's a sequel they're working on, but they've only updated it twice. See what I mean? Man, the chapters sometimes don't take a while. But I loved this one, and yeah. I think it's something that's very possible to happen in you know, professional sports. This is something that is possible to happen, and I thought it was handled very well in this fic. Okay, just a brief one to mention, in all honesty, because again, I'm not rating it, but this one, I should have known what I was getting into, but I just wanted to try it. But there was one called My Moon, My Men by Kate Wright Smut, and this was a play on like, it's a Shane, Ilya, and an original character situation, and Ilya can, like, I don't know, Shane ends up getting a boyfriend that he plays around with, and Ilya watches, and, like, it's too much to explain for the fact that this was only 25,000 words, and it was a weird, like, there's, like, polyamory in here, where, like, Shane is with both men, but the men aren't with each other. And that's very important to Shane, that not, like, I don't know. It was a weird one. I brought it on myself because I tried it, okay? I don't hold it against anyone else but myself. But it was a weird choice of me to read it. That's all I'll say. Okay. Then there was Slip Fast by Emrys. I don't know how to say it. But this one is a, like, fated mate romance, basically. And I found this one really interesting. It was interesting. So I wanted to give it a try. But anyway, the premise of this is that you get told, you learn at a certain age, like if you have a soulmate, the first words that your soulmate will ever say to you appear like a tattoo on you, kind of. Let's see, does it explain this right away? Yeah, because the first sentence, Ilya Rozanov was 13 years old when he got his words. And the words were, you're supposed to smoke over there. And they literally appeared like a line of, like almost like a tattoo on you. And so when he was 13, he got those words. And then the summary is, you're supposed to smoke over there, someone said from behind Ilya. Ilya almost dropped his cigarette. His English was shitty, but he had studied that sentence enough times over the years to understand it. He didn't even think about his words much anymore, but it was impossible to avoid them. He turned instinctively and was face to face with Shane fucking Hollander. Out of almost 7 billion people, of course Ilya's soulmate had to be his fated rival. It was almost poetic. Still, Ilya had enough sense to realize just how bad this was. Or, Shane says Ilya's soulmate words, and Ilya vows to never speak a word to him to keep him from finding out. But they fall in love anyway. So what that means is Ilya literally just never speaks to Shane. But they still find ways. I'll leave that to your imagination, or you can read it to find out. But it isn't a super long one. It's about 45,000 words. I think it was like 150 pages or so. But it was interesting. And you definitely get mad at Ilya for sure. Oh, okay. Then there was this little kind of duet here, or like setup that is it's literally a comedy. There's no other way to say it. But it goes together. So there's this first one that's called Mr. Emergency Contact, and it's by Fandom Commitment Issues, okay? But you read these together. There's Mr. Emergency Contact, and then the second part is Mr. Emergency Contact and the mortifying ordeal of being outed by a child. So you have to read them both. And the first one is literally general audiences, and the second one is teen and general audiences or whatever. It's the lowest like rating on a fic I've ever read because it's literally funny. But it starts off with this, okay? It says, he was just confused at this point. Was there a problem or not? Why on earth was the school where Hayden Pike sent his children calling him? Or Ilya Rozanov realizes he's an emergency contact in the exact moment he needs to act like an emergency contact. Hayden Pike has to release a statement about it. It's so funny. I just want to laugh. So literally the basic setup of this is that like Shane and Hayden's wife Jackie, and then like Hayden's mom, they're all busy. None of them can answer the phone. And Hayden's daughter is sick at school. And Ilya is literally like the last person on the list who is an emergency contact for I think it's for Ruby. And Ilya has to go and pick her up from school. Totally looking like Ilya Rozanov in his sports car. Has to go pick her up from school. She calls him Uncle Ilya. He has to take her, pick up medications for her, and take her home to Shane's apartment and look after her until Shane and Hayden can come and get her. And all the people in the city basically find out. and that's the start of this. This is just this little fic, which is like 8,000 words. So it's just a little quick fic about that incident. Then you read the second part, which is the mortifying ordeal of being outed by a child. And you see the reaction to all the people being like, why the fuck was Ilya Rozanov picking up this kid? What does this mean? And is Ilya having an affair with Jackie? Like, what is this conspiracy? And just all this stuff starts unraveling. And it leads, like, Hayden has to make a statement saying, like, oh, well, we help with Shane and Ilya's charity and we become friends with them. And they just start having to eventually, it, has to lead to Shane and Ilya admitting that, well, that's because they call us uncle, because we are their uncles. It's great. Like I said, it's funny, and the kids, like, just will not shut up either. Like, they keep saying, like, oh, Uncle Ilya is so great. Like, they just keep saying these things in public to people, and they just can't, like, control anything. And it's glorious. So, complete comedy, but yet you also feel really bad for the adults, because it's like, do they tell the children to lie? Like, what are they actually asking these kids to do by not having them be honest? Like, it's great. So, anywho, those are some fun light ones in between a lot of these heavy ones I've been reading. I normally don't read stuff like that. I'll be honest, I'm in it for the emotional intimacy or the sexiness. And sure enough, you'll see, because after I read those ones, there was Ilya Rozanov Gets Railed. Which was one I found because, honestly, some people were arguing, and it was making me annoyed with them, and so I went and looked it up, okay? Some people were being annoying. And this fic was written, you can tell, this fic was written in 2023, okay? Long before there was a Hudson and Connor playing Ilya and Shane. Long before there was people arguing about this. And if you read the note by Glitter City here, I won't read the whole thing here, but this was the very first fic with the tag of Ilya bottoms. Okay, yep, I just said it. So in this fic, Shane fucks Ilya, okay? And people really had feelings about it, okay? And in 2023 even, there was only like 200 fics in general that were Shane and Ilya. And this fic was the very first fic that was Ilya bottoms at all. Like, no one had done it yet, which is wild to me to be the first one. That's so funny. This person was funny. They're like, it's a crying shame that I can't put this on my resume. That was the first person. But I wanted to read one, and people were being so like, you just can't everybody do this. And I like reading fics where people do what the fuck they want. And so I wanted to read one. And you know what? This is a short fic. This is only 13,000 words. This is like the second shortest fic that I read, besides the emergency contact one, which was a pair. And I cried during this one because it really is it's an emotional release why he does that. So this is an after the long game fic. And Ilya actually like asked Shane to do it because he just wants to get out of his head. It's kind of an extension of something that they talk about in the long game. And Shane is like, you didn't like it last time. He's like, well, it's been a long time and we should like try this again. And so, they do. Anyway. So yeah. And I liked it. So if you want to see Ilya Rozanov get railed, that's the one for you. So after that one, there was One Night by Merope. And this one was okay. This one was a Shane and Ilya, and honestly Scott Hunter too, they all get like stranded in an airport after the Olympics. And then, yeah, they get stranded in the Hong Kong airport and stuff ensues. Like, there's not much else to say about this one. Like, it was all right. It was one that I like. It's not a super long one. It's one where they're gonna break up and then they don't. And I don't know. That one was one that I didn't have super strong feelings about either way. It was all right. Then after that one, I read So Much of Living is Unknown. So this is another one where Ilya bottoms. And this is one, though, that has to do with a lot of like mental health and depression stuff too. And so Ilya gets injured during a centaur's game and he starts to spiral. And so Shane has been taking care of him and he starts to get creative about it. And so they both have to grapple with some role reversals and Ilya gets railed for a change. And so the fic author wrote this note here. They said, "This is a gift for a friend who this week read all 30 fics with a certain tag and had a specific request afterwards. So I read most of the long game yesterday and I have not finished it. And it's obviously that this deviates from canon a bit because Ilya doesn't get injured, but we suspend our disbelief here. I know nothing about hockey and never will. Fiction is fiction, baby. Nothing matters." So in this one, yeah, Ilya gets injured and he's really struggling to get better and he's starting to spiral with his mental health. And so how this one leads to the bottoming, though, it's different than in that other one I just read where, like, in the Ilya Rozanov gets railed, Ilya asks Shane to do it. In this one, Shane actually brings it up, which I think could feel out of place for some people. But the way we walk into it, I really like it because Shane is actually bringing it about in a place of trust where he's saying that, like, I know you better than anyone else. And it comes up that when he was with Svetlana, that they had actually played around before, and Svetlana had actually fucked Ilya once with, like, a dildo or whatever. And Shane mentions to him that, like, I should know you more than anyone. You trust me more than anyone. And I think that it will do something to prove to you that you can be vulnerable with me like you are with no one else, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you'll have to read it to see. It was very believable to me. I appreciated it where it went with it. I thought it was very beautiful. And it really moved me how we got to that point. And yeah, it just, I don't know. It just really moved me how we got to that point because Shane really kind of challenges him in that, you know, there's so often that you always push me to be vulnerable with you and trust me and, like, have that trust back that, like, I will take us to that place. Let me have control sometimes, and to help you get out of your head fully. That means not having to think or be in control during a sexual situation too. Which is very true. And I don't know, it worked in the fic, you know, but again, if that's not going to be for you, that's fine. And if you can't imagine Shane and Ilya doing that, that's fine. I think in their long lives together that, I think there would be times where Shane isn't always the most anxious Nelly that we see. Like, I think in the times that we've seen him in books and show thus far, he's just more unsettled in his life than he is. But there will come times where that switches, right? And I don't think it will necessarily come in the form of sex things as it does in, you know, that's how it comes out in the sexual dynamic. But I think we will get to see times where Shane gets to be that. And I thought it was done well, for sure. Okay, then we have So Much of You is Left Behind. And this was one that I've said this ended up being in my top books of February because, which I know I like, that was such a hard, like, truly, this book was beautiful. I wept over it so much. Or this fic. See, I want to call it a book when it makes me feel that way. So this ended up in my top reads of February because it just made me weep. It was so beautiful. Was So Much of You is Left Behind by Chaotic Russian. And this is another injury fic. I know, I like those. Like, so many of these are because they're so beautiful. And this is a Shane injury fic. And this was one that I was waiting for it to be finished. This one just got done on the 21st of February and I read it right away. And it's not super long. It's only like 230 pages if you read it that way. And this is the summary. It says, maybe he was naive, but Ilya always thought he had time. Time with Shane, time to tell him what he truly meant to him, that somehow, one way or another, Shane would always be there. But a text message late one night threatens to destroy the future that Ilya had spent the time carefully constructing in his mind. Maybe Shane wasn't always going to be there, that Shane would be cruelly snatched away from him before he had a chance to be honest, that he would be left behind alone. So this is one, and I've talked about it at so many points at this time, but This one takes place kind of, it would be kind of like a post episode 4 divergence thing. So nobody else knows about them yet, but they're also like a little bit further along in their relationship. Like this isn't a post episode 4 one where like they had went home with other people type thing, but they're still secretive and they're still in the like they secretly love each other but haven't told one another yet type of thing. And that's kind of the phase that they're at. Because what's going to happen is that Shane and Hayden are on their way home after like having drinks with their friends. Ilya is in his hotel room and him and Shane are texting. And Ilya is basically waiting for Shane to get back to his hotel so they can like sext each other. Or no, Shane's on his way home because they're in Montreal, I guess. And Shane is going to like video call him so they can, you know, have a Skype sex session or something like that. And instead, after they've been texting for a while, Ilya gets a message that says, and I'll just read it. So yeah, at 11:14, he gets one from, and it says Jane on his phone still. This is where they're at. It says, "Thank you, that means a lot to me. I'll text you when I get home." And then 10 minutes later, he gets one that says, "Crash detected, SOS. Jane called emergency services from this approximate location. You are receiving this message because Jane has listed you as emergency contact." So Ilya gets that message and it just like explodes his brain. And he doesn't know what to do about it. And so he is in a different city. Shane is in Montreal, I think. And so he immediately like travels there. That happened at 11:20 at night. And he starts driving there. And when he gets there, he gets a message from an unknown number, this time at 6 a.m. And it says this: "Shane asked me to text this number if anything ever happened to him. He told me to text and give his location. I'm trusting my son's judgment here. He's at Montreal General Hospital in the critical care unit. I'm sorry to make contact this way. David Hollander." So now he's in Montreal at Shane's apartment because Ilya has a key to it. One of the apartments, right? And now he's been invited to the hospital by David, who David has no idea that this is Ilya Rozanov that he's just texted. So just that it's Lily that he's messaged, basically. And so Ilya has to make the decision with Shane in critical care in a coma. Ilya has to make the decision to basically out them to his parents or never make contact or never go. And it's just so much pressure on Ilya, but also he just so desperately wants to be there. He loves this man. He's never told him he loved him, but he's, you know, like the only one who cares. And the fact that Shane made him his emergency contact, the fact that he told his parents, please let this person know, and never told Ilya that he had done those steps, it just says so much about how much Ilya was on Shane's mind. And it's crazy. And so of course Ilya goes and he gets welcomed in by the Hollanders, but it's days before Shane wakes up, and then there's a long road ahead for what's coming next for them. And so I freaking love this one. Like I said, it's my favorite fic I've read so far. You know, again, without rating or giving it a number, I've read 26 of these so far. This is my favorite one. Highly, highly recommend it. I know it sounds tragic, but every one I've recommended to you, even the ones where I'm like, I didn't like it that much, they all are happy endings, even the ones that I don't like that much. So I'm not recommending you any that will be tragic for you. I should have said that at the beginning. I don't read ones that don't have HAs. That's also why I don't read unfinished fic. I think people forget that part, that until a fic author is done with it, we don't know if it has a HA or not, and I'm not wading into those waters until I know. Like, I can hope that they will because this is based off of stuff, but like I said, there's fics out there where Ilya dies in an effing plane crash. Like, I'm not diving into stuff until I know. People forget. But anyway, this one It absolutely has a happy ending, but it is very painful for a while. And the best parts of it really are, of course, Shane's parents. Love Shane's parents. Also, just the other note to put in, I'll cry again. Hayden was in the car too when this happened. Hayden's alive too. But like, Jackie's pregnant in this one when it happens. She's pregnant with their 4th kid. So like, there's just a lot of like, I'm just trying to like break you with this one. So, okay, we gotta keep going. We're almost caught up to where I'm at now. So then there was, Only You Could Ruin Me Like This. And this is a quick one. So this one, I read this one because Opal Apparition is the name of this fic author. And Opal Apparition is the fic author who is writing Wolfbird. Okay. And Wolfbird is that fic that I've been referencing multiple times now, that everyone's trying to get everyone to read. It's currently being written. It's only being updated like once every 2 weeks. Everyone's fucking loving it, okay? And I'm sure it's fantastic, but I'm not reading it till it's done. But everyone's obsessed. Every time I post about the fics, they are like, read Wolfbird, right? It is the Hollanov fic everyone's reading. And I was like, well, let me read something else by Opal Apparition, because I'm not going to read that one till it's done. So I read this one, and I didn't really care for it, because it's basically a one-shot that then they tell the opposite's point of view from it. So it'll say 3 chapters when you open it, but it is a spin-off of, it's a spin-off of episode 4 of What If Shane Didn't Go Home with Rose? What if Ilya actually went and picked him up from the bar, and then they shared their love confessions at that point instead? That's literally what it is. So I didn't really care for it, but the writing was very dramatic, and I'm like, okay, I can see how this fic author will definitely get people. Okay, then I read Play Hard by Heartsy, and this is another post-long game fic. Kind of going back to the vibes of the very first ones I read. And this one this is the start of the Ottawa season. Ilya finally has all the people he loves in one place, a team that can keep up with him. The world knows that he and Shane love each other, and they have the sweetest, most perfect dog. So why is he so nervous about their first game against Montreal? AKA, protective Ilya Rozanov momentarily forgets his husband is still the hockey player prodigy he fell in love with at First Freckle in Saskatchewan. So Ilya and Shane feel the pressure of the upcoming game against Montreal, and they handle it in different ways. So this one is, their first season as a married couple being out and dealing with playing against Montreal, being a bunch of assholes. So there was that one. Then I just read one that was Fanning the Flames, and this one was, I don't have these ones pulled up yet because I actually just read these ones. But Fanning the Flames was the, what's happening in that one? They are supposed to get, what is it? Fan mail things or whatever. And fans start being able to tell that they've filmed them in each other's apartments. And instead of trying to completely shut down the fan theories, because they wouldn't be able to do that, they decide to fan the flames until there's no point in denying that they actually are together. So they're going to slowly out their relationship is kind of the point of that one. So that one was cute. It was fun. And then one that I just finished the other day, and I really, really loved it, is The Second First Time by Alive. And, Fanning the Flames, by the way, is by CJR2, which is that same fanfic author who did Full Contact and Concussion Protocol. That's why I read that one, because I love that fic author. Second First Time is a Shane amnesia fic, okay? And Shane wakes up in 2025 and he doesn't remember the last 9 years. He still thinks it's 2016, and he wakes up with Ilya sitting at his bed, and all he remembers is that he has fooled around with him. So this is pre-love confessions. This is pre a lot of things. Like, none of them have happened. And so Shane wakes up, and Ilya is his husband, and they live together, and they both play for Ottawa, and Shane has no idea. So this one hurt me. It hurt me so bad. But it was also so well done, because the little things you wouldn't even think of in this one, this fic author did. Because even then, as like imagine if someone you thought was your rival, which I do think they play Shane a little bit too enemy focused for him, because like Ilya in 2016, like Shane isn't hating Ilya anymore. I think he's very overwhelmed with the fact that he would have been so bold as to be married to a man. But by 2016, he definitely had deep feelings for Ilya. So that's weird to me, right? Because by 2017 is when they were like in love. So I don't know. I think they should have had him forget more, or else whatever, because they're that. But like they have him, even once he starts getting back into play, he plays different, right? Like his body's remembering stuff. And they're practicing, and Ilya's like, you play like a boy still. And he's like, you're eager, but you're so wasteful with your movements. And I just think that was super interesting stuff. So really liking that one. Or I liked that one a lot. That is going to be a top favorite too. Because that one was gut-wrenching at times. And like Ilya... Oh, that's what I was going to say. Imagine if your rival is now your primary medical decision maker. Because there's times where Shane wants something and Ilya's like, the answer is no. You're not medically sound to make that decision. And Ilya's like, how is he allowed to make that? And he's like, well, Shane, he's your husband and he's making your medical decisions for you. Like, what would that feel like if you just woke up and this man you think is your, again, I don't think he should be his enemy, but this man you think is your enemy is the one in charge of when you get to leave the hospital and stuff. Like, that would be so overwhelming for poor baby Shane, my poor baby boy. It's very interesting. Okay. And then I won't say this one yet, but I'm currently reading another one that's a fic called Miracle. And in this one, it's another plane crash one. But this time, Ilya's the only one who survives. That one is killing me right now. I knew it was going to hurt, but imagine he's the only one that lived. That one's rough. So anyway, okay, I knew this was going to be long, but those are the 26 Hollanov fics that I've read since I started reading them in December. And I want to share them all with you in one video. So let me know if you've read any. I will have links to every single one down below if you want to dive into them. Please do. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Please hype this if you watch it. I know this video is not going to do the same as my others. I know it's way different than everything, but I've just been itching to make this video, and I had to do it. I wanted to put these all in one place for you guys because I just love them. They bring me so much joy, even when I'm reading the ones that are absolutely devastating. They bring me so much joy, and I wanted to share them with you. So let me know what you think about this, and we'll see you next time. Bye.